What's a completely irrational fear that you have? I still, at almost 40, still run up the basement stairs after turning the lights off. I know there's nothing there, but I can't help it. Fear of spider in a goddamn games. I'm covered with the goosebumps when I play Witcher 3 and battle spider creatures. So comes to Skyrim once. Sometimes it feels so awful that I have to close a comma and take a deep breath. Whenever I hear a noise in my house when I'm trying to sleep, I panic for a moment and think that it must be a huntsman spider. One of the things that I hate about spiders is that they creep around silently. I don't know why my brain decides that they also thump around during the night. Vaccines. I am literally extremely jealous of people with asthma because they are just as healthy as the general population and don't have to be vaccinated at all. I would chop all of my limbs off to have asthma instead of the condition I have. I am also jealous of heavy smokers with no underlying health conditions because tobacco reduces the risk of death in already healthy people. My condition means that if I catch coronavirus, I will not survive at all. However, everyone I know with the same condition as me has fainted and had to be sent to hospital after the vaccine. My dad is constantly being sent texts telling me to get the vaccine. I deserve to faint for other people, but I am too much of a coward. I would swap my condition for mild, moderate asthma and/or heavy smoking addiction. Bermuda Triangle. So this actually comes up quite a lot when people ask about things from when you were little that you were scared of but have no reason to be. What I've realized though, is that I still, at 40, get anxious flying across the Atlantic. I don't experience this anywhere else in the world, just an embedded irrational fear if I have to cross the Atlantic. Taking photographs. Retouching has always existed, but good grief, photos are edited to filth. It has become the norm to wear a filter or remove totally normal features to create a glittering perfect shot to post on the internet. People don't just take photos of things to privately keep as memories, they also take them as a perfect advertisement of their lives, especially travel photography with the sheer amount of photoshopped monuments and skies. I don't even know what's real anymore. Having an original thought. Before the internet, you could come up with a great joke, insight, idea or whatever, and you could go on believing you were the first person to come up with it. Now, almost any such idea that you have turns out to be pedestrian and commonplace as soon as you check with the search engine. I want to use a verb other than Google, since I use DuckDuckGo. It'd be ironic if that was an original idea. Information in general. Truth. Maybe. The internet made it so easy for malicious people to spread false information. The increasing popularity of any opinion makes it easy for people to have a bias regarding its truth. I hate it so much that I have stopped correcting people on the internet. Among Us. The game itself is actually very fun and cool when you're playing with the right people. It took a huge downfall when the internet made it a huge meme and ruined the gameplay for a ton of people, since there's not a lot of people in public lobbies that you can genuinely play the game with anymore. Not perfect in the slightest, but I'm gonna go with journalism. All of a sudden the push for clicks became the most important thing, and actually reporting events factually was abandoned. Add to this the political radicalization of these journalists, read, activists, that occurred due to the echo chamber effect, and top it off with these same journalists, from major publications, agreeing that certain outlets and certain opinions must be censored. It's a sad state of affairs. Each of these problems existed before the internet, but the new digital era we live in threw what was a slow trend into light speed. Not sure if it counts, but YouTube. Some younger people talk about how so-and-so creator used to be great before they sold out or something. But for me, the whole idea of creators ruined YouTube. I used to use YouTube for music videos and random AFV type funny things, think Charlie bit my finger, but now it's also self-absorbed. Most of the famous people seem to just post about themselves and their lives. My kid is a teenager and it definitely shows with what he watches. He loves video games, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him watch gameplay from his favorite game, but it can't ever be that. It has to be person reacts to gameplay, and that person is from some group, clan, and they fill their commentary with tons of stuff about themselves. So, made up example, my kid will show me a clip of person playing game, and while the game is going on, another person will say you don't get it because you're Canadian, and then a ton of laughter. And I ask my kid why that clip is funny and its person is from Canada. So group always makes fun of him, and this is their series on best times we pranked each other, so it's a funny joke about person. I don't think I'm explaining it well, but it just feels like a whole different universe. Collecting things. It's so easy now to simply get what you want instead of searching for it. And in many cases the prices of things has come down. My dad was a big baseball card collector. He had specific cards he wanted and really enjoyed going to conventions and card stores, often spending a weekend driving to different towns looking for a card. Once eBay became a thing, it sucked the joy right out of him. Most card stores closed and became online only, and any card he wanted he could easily find online for much cheaper than he would pay at a store or from a collector. So his passion dropped off. He said searching for an Ernie Banks rookie card was fun. Took me months to find one in decent condition. Now I go on eBay and there are a bunch of them for cheaper. Sure, it's easier, but there is no fun in that. Pooping. Used to be, you'd go into a little closed room and do your thing. Maybe read a magazine, or perhaps peruse the ingredients list of the potpourri spray you're gonna use in a couple minutes. Then you'd get up and leave. 10 minutes for a big one. Now it's a half-hour ordeal. Your legs fall asleep, so when you're finally done, you still gotta wait a few minutes before you can actually walk out. And then there's the hemorrhoids. And let's not even talk about what the internet did with the actual poop. Cries and 2 girls 1 cup. Books. So many bookstores and libraries are going out of business in my neighborhood because people are buying the e-book version. You cannot enjoy a good lie anymore. I'll explain what I mean. Years ago you could go to the pub and wind someone or a few lads up by saying something outrageous. You could keep it going for hours, days, weeks and sometimes years. Now everyone just fact-checks everything straight away on their phones, and it has ruined the crack. Adventure. I can think of something to do nowadays and then Google it and find videos of people doing it, tutorials on how to do it, and maps. In the last few years I got into watch YouTube hiking videos, and basically every step of the Pacific Crest Trail is documented. And I don't have any desire to go and hike it. Before you even start you know what's it going to be like. I went to Vietnam a couple of years ago and there it was everyone doing a motorbike trip. I'm sure the people enjoyed it and had fun, but like the PCT it's been documented so much that it's no longer an adventure, but it seems like one. YouTube at the start. Now it's all clickbait videos, fake apologies, problematic teenagers pulling mean pranks for views, and influencer videos with heavy editing. It feels so fake now. At the beginning, creators seemed so real and down to earth. Videos were actually funny, not all of course. Editing was very limited and the ideas were more creative. I miss old YouTube. Most homophones are double entendre, hard, come, came, stiff, erect, 69, 420, sus. Most of them would have eventually become jokes, but I think the internet really sped that up. The statement of free speech. Free speech does not mean you can be a racist, or a misogynist, or literally anything, as there is no freedom of consequences. Anyone that uses the excuse of freedom of speech in the wrong way, doesn't know anything about it, and is wrong. Having divergent and dissenting views was possible once. People could have different values and live according to their more conservative and traditional beliefs. But now the internet is bringing on this extreme hive mind and conformist monoculture, and unfortunately companies and corporations are fully on board. If people don't want to be part of it, they are targeted by mobs and get their livelihoods destroyed. Human variety is going to be obliterated. News. Now everyone can publish fake, manipulated news, and there are so many radical people who had no voice before. Now they create a Twitter account, they post shit, and they find thousands of followers who share that radical, extremist thinking, creating more radicals when they are popular. They polarize the society. A hike in my hometown, there was a trail that was really nice, difficult and always empty. There also was a rock that stuck out over a small cliff, and once Instagram found it, the floodgates opened. Now it's wall-to-wall people with a line to go up on the rock and act like you're falling. People usually take the easy way up the backside that's all paved road. It's become an Instagram destination, and people from hundreds of miles away drive there with cameras and tripods. If I didn't care about leave no trace, I would be for just destroying that rock to stop these idiots from clogging up the trail. The internet was perfect until the internet ruined it. As late as 2010 it was still kind of the Wild West. YouTube had minimal ads. Even when Twitch started, it was just a handmade streaming place where content creators had more or less coded overlays and content on their streams, and it was all good. Now I log into Twitch and have to watch 3 minutes of commercials every time I enter a stream. And I don't even bother with YouTube anymore unless I absolutely have to. All of this is because people are using the internet, and bigger companies growing and transitioning on the internet are trying to find more ways to monetize it. It's really bringing down the feeling of freedom being on the internet used to give me. We create ad blockers to avoid hindrance. They develop ad blocker detectors and ad blocker walls. It's just going to keep going forever now. They will try to squeeze more and more time and money out of us. You're already monetizing my user data without compensating me. Can we just leave it at that so you don't harangue me with ads every second I'm online? The friendship with that random guy Ted you didn't know very well. He seems cool, likes your local sports team, has a good sense of humor, and knows a lot about the hardware tools you need at the store. Then you became friends with Ted on Facebook. Turns out Ted's a white supremacist. Basically every friendship I've ever had that was surface level has been ruined because of their crazy political beliefs. Political correctness. In the past, people would get offended over actual offensive stuff and call out actual bullshit. Now people call out everything. Oh, you're not breading the right way, cancelled. Oh, you don't support LGBTQ, cancelled. Oh, you didn't post a meaningless black square on Instagram, cancelled. Oh, you didn't use /s when you were being sarcastic, cancelled. Oh, you spent £1,200 on a PC, cancelled. Oh, you said something racist 10 years and no longer hold the same opinion and you are now a better person, cancelled. It's just people cancelling each other for no other reason. Also, most kids' cartoons, games and anime, why do you have to make porn of it? WTF? Differences in opinion. It used to be okay to like certain things and dislike certain other things whether they're popular or not. Nowadays though, if I say I find One Piece boring because of the constant reaction shots, or I like X-Men The Last Stand, I'll get burned at the stake. Fanfictions. They used to be a way for people to interpret characters in light of what they knew about the source material until it took a really dark turn. Fanfictions used to be very artfully written, and today you have things like incestuous, bestial relationships between Disney characters existing. Thanks Internet. Game of Thrones. I'm not gonna argue that the last 2 seasons weren't rushed and suffered because of it. I will argue that the show hit hype levels not seen before in the pop culture, streaming era, and because of that would never have been able to meet the expectations created regardless of the ending. Video game magazines. Don't get me wrong, I like that I can get gaming news as it happens on demand now, but no headline will ever get me as hyped as pulling something like an EGM or Nintendo Power out of the mailbox. I remember getting so excited learning about something like Mega Man X or Super Metroid because it showed up as a cover story in Nintendo Power. Food. Sure, it wasn't the best. But now we've got so many opinions on what should be eaten, what's unhealthy, what to eat more of, what to cut down on, and even more groups saying the exact opposite, and all sides claim to have some kind of science on their side. I can't even figure out how healthy or unhealthy cheese is because there'll be people saying it causes sicknesses, some saying it's good for you, some telling you exactly how to structure your intake of it, and so many other things. For food, eating shouldn't be so debated and complicated. Discourse in all forms. Looking back a few years, the amount of consideration going into a single page of a newspaper of quality, in a book page, in a sentence was much higher. We are drowning in relationless data, feeling informed, and we get shallow interpretations for these tsunami waves which do not help in any way. Instead of understanding, we are tagging. Instead of being outstanding, we display outstanding. Yes, with we I mean the protagonists of our culture. German politicians, for example, are right now showing that they are not in control, but rather are actors of someone who is in control. Probably already said, but socializing, talking to people on the internet is so boring and you do it for less than a minute most of the time. I don't normally like talking to strangers in person and I'm always awkward, but it's so much more engaging and stimulating to do it in person. We continue to do it because it exists and so many others are on the train. It's sad that social media will probably never end. Word puzzles. I don't mean those a train is traveling, math problems. I mean puzzles based on vocabulary. Games Magazine had a monthly contest for years where entrants had to, say, find 3 consonants and make the longest words they could by adding only additional vowels, but with the consonants in every permutation. To enter you had to think, okay, squeal is 6 letters, so say Kaylee would be longer. But does that have 2 L's? And what am I going to do for LQS? Eventually they gave them up. And I am sure it is because easily available and searchable databases made them either unfair or trivial. The internet, I mean. It wasn't perfect, but when I first got into it, very early 90s, the internet was fast, even on a slow connection, and it was simpler. There was no www, so all was text-based in shell accounts that you connected to, usually via Kermit. Those on it were there mostly for a purpose, and you had to have a general amount of computer knowledge to get there. Gopher was kinda neat. I never really got into using Archie or Veronica, but I used Pine for email and IRC for chat. After compiling a client, I had both AVAX, VMS and Nix shells to play on, and it was kinda fun. I ordered some CDs from CD Now, over Telnet even, then the web started. And at first, it was a good idea. Lynx was a nice text-based browser, but as the web grew in popularity, the need to make it more available to the masses grew, and while on the surface that's a good thing, it also brought us social media, and the ability of all sorts of groups to find each other, some good, some extreme, and with everything connected, comes the advent of those who want to take advantage of that for their own personal gains, and the flood of ads on everything. Yes, it's nice being able to take my phone out of my pocket and have a world of no. Buying normal, everyday stuff. It might be a good thing for some people, but Amazon reviews lead me to an overanalysis of the most basic purchase. Why did those 5 people out of 1,000 say it wasn't a good toaster? I eventually just have to say screw it and hit buy. This is more than offset than the variety of things we can buy now because of the internet. That is amazing.